Buddy here, and I am joined today by Whitney, Jennifer, Mike Caulfield, and Maha. I guess what we were going to talk about is some reactions to Mike's just recent keynote, and the first one being, what the hell is a federated wiki?
Yeah, so the best way to think about this is currently we have two modes of communication, right? One is expressive and personal, and that is blogging, and you treat your blog as sort of an extension of your own personal self. It contains what we would call an identity stream or a discourse stream that expresses what you think. And the way people interact with that is not collaborate with your blog. The way they interact with that is they respond, right? They reply, or they say, you're full of crap, or whatever. And then the second way we have is the collaborative technologies like Wiki, where it's not just an expression of yourself. You are trying to build a network of understanding, a model of your understanding of a domain or something like that, but you're doing it collaboratively with people in a space, and that forces you to reach a consensus, right? So you don't get to control, if you go on Wikipedia, right? You've got to come to some consensus with people on Wikipedia about what the article on Dewey's School and Society is going to be. So those are the two modes that we've had, and Federated Wiki is kind of a combination of the blog and wiki worlds. And the way Federated Wiki works is, what if you could control your own space for collaboration? And we would do that via processes known as forking, where if I find something on your blog that I particularly like, I pull it into my space and network it into my space and build out my personal wiki. If you find something on my space that in my personal space you like, you fork that into your personal wiki, and we kind of feather our own nest with posts from different people from all over the place, and then build and annotate and connect those together. So it's really some people have called it a blicky. A combination of blogging and wiki, and it's hopefully a way to I think reinvigorate the collaborative power of the web, which we've moved so far. My keynote was partially about how far we've moved to the expressive stream-based model of the web, away from the initial collaborative, sort of expository, connected content.
So you see it as a kind of a rise of the self? Do you see it kind of the rise of the individual in this new streamed notification web, or is it?
Well, it's not just so the individual always has a place, but the problem with my blog is my blog has to be read as an expression of me and my beliefs. So I can't put anything on my blog that I disagree with. Because I'm hosting that as an extension of my voice. And what that means is that I only host things on my blog I agree with. I only cover things that I consider to be substantial. If I don't have the right mix of posts on this and that issue, I'm going to be seen as having some form of bias or something like that. So we become more narrowly pushed its own space, where instead of using technology as a tool to generate new understandings, we're using technology as a tool to express understandings. And the keynote was really about how that wasn't the original vision of hypertext. The original vision of hypertext was not as a tool for us all to be absolutely expressive, but as the network nature of hypertext was going to be a tool that would allow us to generate new understandings, right, and allow us to get out of our head and out of that expressively into something more generative, and so yeah. So this is an attempt to do that.
Well, and you bring up a really good point. So blogging is now perceived as an extension of yourself.
Yeah.
How do you think open scholarship has put the pressure on that and maybe changed that space?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, when you do professional blogging, it gets even worse, right? Because now it's an extension of your professional self, and that has to be even more tightly controlled. And so the more blogging in your personal stream matters, which, I mean, a great victory we've had is now what you do in that network space matters, and we see that as a victory. People People blog professionally. People tweet and network, and we see that as a great strength of it. But it's also because now that's a professional space. It also means that you have to so tightly constrain what that persona that you're building is that you're not actually. It's no longer a space to explore ideas that you disagree with anymore, right? I mean, God forbid you get on and you express whatever the heresy is in your discipline, and you put that on, you give that space, and you can't do that because people will say, oh, well, she believes this or she believes that. The original idea of the MEMX, which I talk about in my keynote, was that you would have a machine or a space online that would house a combination of the common record, things other people believed, and then you would integrate your stuff into that space. And the fact that there are so many conflicting opinions in that space that you organize allows you to come up with new ideas. Right now, what we do is we purify our stream to make sure that there are only things that we agree with, and we rely on this sort of argumentative advocacy model that define the truth in between, but I think we can all agree that hasn't worked out so great.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing people did say about my keynote publicly was, I wanted to tweet about it, but I didn't understand it. So.
Well, then let's do a quick little brain exercise. Whitney and Jennifer, take 1 minute and try to jot down an idea of how you could use Federated Wiki in a class.
I'm glad someone else doing the exercise. Awesome.
Yeah, and then I'll share my idea. I tried the original FedWiki Happening, or might have been the second one, and I could not figure out a use case.
Yeah.
I was struggling. But now I've been working with Mozilla Learning Networks. We've been, developing curriculum, and it's always like, well, then you got to get this repo up on, I can't figure out GitHub. I've tried so hard. And then I was thinking, a lesson plan remix, that's a perfect idea for me that I want to use FedWiki with for my teachers, where I could have a template, and I'm thinking they could then you always steal lesson plans. I mean, I tell my students, good teachers are creative, and the best teachers steal from the good. That's my
D stands for rip off and duplicate. Oh, I like.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That rip off and duplicate. You say fewer words. So that was kind of my idea but I did try FedWiki.
That's a really pertinent example, and so if you think about that example, the idea there is not just that you're inspired, you read someone else's lesson plan and you're inspired and you build your own. The idea is you could actually copy that lesson plan in your own space and you would change it. And this is the important thing: the way that the protocols work in Federated Wiki or these things is that when you make the changes, other people can see that created this and were involved with this creation, can see the changes you made. So they're benefiting too. They're benefiting from your reuse. You're benefiting from the fact you steal. They're benefiting from the fact that everything you build on it afterwards, they have access to. And so that's the kind of fundamental idea. And that's something that right now blogging doesn't really accomplish.
Well, and in education, we often do jigsaws, right? And you go away and everybody goes and works on one piece of a project and brings it back.
Yeah, and that's how I use it in my classes, essentially for a jigsaw type project. So you go and you have a bunch of people work on this subject, and other people work on this subject, and as they build out their Federated Wiki, we talk about build out from the center and meet at edges. And the idea is if you build out far enough from any given center, you eventually bump into the person building out from their own center of knowledge. And at that point of intersection, things become really interesting because now you're covering pandemic from the perspective of the Spanish flu thing that your group is working on, whereas the other people are covering pandemic from the issue of the mathematics of pandemic. And so now those two sides meet, and now you have this very complex vision of pandemic that's not resolved to either one of those things, but stands in this neat sort of tension.
Yeah, it pushes people to think deeper.
Yeah.
And you brought up argumentation, and now that we're talking about networks and this global world, I interestingly found out talking about with colleagues in Finland that there isn't a word in Finnish for argumentation. That like the idea of writing or to win an argument is a very kind of Western, not even, I mean, that's a Western country, but even more an American idea, like that sense of win. So I like this idea of just examining perspectives. And another idea I had is you could use it to like try to write biased perspectives, like give somebody an ID and let them try on that ID. Like, oh, you have to, going back to the pandemics. All right, I want you to write this like your perspective is a doctor, or your perspective is a survivor, something, you know, like, because we can't, perspective and bias is so nuanced. It's not like, you know, clear cut, right, wrong, left, right. And I struggle with teaching that. So I want to see if I can maybe try Federated Wiki to do something with that too.
Well, and also once you start thinking in those terms, like, you know, when you first started blogging, you started thinking like a blogger and like composing blog posts in your head, and those follow a certain form. And you get on Twitter, and everything for a while is like your mind is thinking in tweets, which is scary. But you know, it's the same way with Federated Wiki. I was listening to Marsha Devlin talk about. During one of these sessions, she had the term sociocultural incongruence, right? And so your mind just, you know, during the day you hear a term like that, and you're like, well, that's a tool for thinking, and I don't know how useful that will be. I can't write a blog post on sociocultural incongruence because I don't even know what you would do with that idea. But it just seems to me I should capture that. And I know if I capture, I just have a sense that if I capture that, eventually, somehow it's going to link in to something or other, you know, as long as I capture it and preserve it for future reuse. Or maybe someone else will see it, and they'll see it on my wiki, and they have something that it'll fit perfectly. But you realize that there are so many moments in the day where there's a new lens that you're looking at something you're exposed to, or a new term, or a new fact, or a piece of data, or data set, or data library. Whatever it is, and you just kind of let it go because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit into an argument yet, and you feel like, oh, I can't publish anything until I have the argumentative. I have all these facts and whatever, but I can't publish them until I get the thread of the argument solidified. And this allows you to do the stuff before that and get it out there so other people can use it.
And with that, Greg, I think we have to wrap up here on our end. Thank you very much for your thought-provoking questions. And thanks to Mike and Jennifer and Maha and Laura for joining us for this session. So thanks again, Greg. We'll talk to you later.
Right. Okay.